Cronus believed he had won. That was the most dangerous part, his certainty. When he learned that his own mother, Gaia, the earth herself, had prophesied that one of his children would overthrow him, he didn't hesitate. He swallowed every child that Rhea brought into the world. One by one. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each time a child was born, Cronus took it and swallowed it whole, convinced that this way destiny could never catch up with him, that if the gods never grew up, they could never take his throne. That fear was stronger than time. But fear, when it becomes obsession, blinds you. And Rhea, his wife, couldn't take it anymore. When the time came to give birth to her sixth child, Rhea made a decision. She didn't confront Cronus with words or force. She fooled him with something much simpler, a stone wrapped in cloth. Cronus took it, swallowed it without looking, and went on ruling, convinced the danger had passed once again. Meanwhile, the real baby was secretly taken to an island far from the center of the world, far from the power of the Titans, far from his father's eyes. That island was Crete, and that baby was Zeus. He grew up among mountains, cared for by nymphs, and fed by the divine goat Amalthea, not in a palace, not surrounded by followers. He grew up in silence, without a crown or a court, learning to move through the world without anyone knowing who he was. There was something strange about that. The son destined to rule the entire known universe was raised far from any form of power. And maybe that was exactly what made him different from his father. Cronus, meanwhile, remained at the center of the cosmos, surrounded by Titans, convinced his reign would last forever. The Titans were the oldest gods, beings of a scale that was hard to imagine, primordial forces that ruled the sky, the sea, light, and time. Their power was real and immense, but their rule was also the rule of someone terrified of losing what they have. Cronus didn't govern from confidence. He governed from control. And that difference, invisible as it seemed, made him fragile in a way he couldn't see. When Zeus was old enough, he came back. Not with an army or a declaration of war. He came back with a plan. With the help of Metis, a Titaness known for her wisdom and her ability to see beyond the obvious, Zeus managed to give Cronus a substance that forced him to bring back up everything he had swallowed. And so, one by one, his siblings returned to the world. Hestia, the eldest, goddess of the hearth and sacred fire. Demeter, who would hold in her hands the power over fertile earth and harvests. Hera, who would in time become queen of Olympus. Hades, lord of the dead. Poseidon, who would rule the seas. All of them had spent years inside their father, unable to grow, unable to act, suspended in a darkness that wasn't death, but wasn't life either. And when they came out, they were whole. They were ready. Zeus didn't have to convince them to fight. The injustice spoke for itself. And so began what the Greeks called the Titanomachy, the war between the young Olympian gods and the ancient Titans. It wasn't a battle of a day or a week. It was a long war, a struggle that shook the cosmos in ways no mortal could fully measure. The sky grew tense, the earth trembled, the sea churned without any apparent cause. Forces that had been still for generations began to stir. But before the war truly began, Zeus made another decision that would change everything. Deep beneath the earth, in Tartarus, the lowest and most remote region of the world, there were ancient beings that Cronus had imprisoned because he feared them. One group was the Cyclopes, enormous creatures, each with a single eye, who were not mindless monsters, but extraordinary craftsmen, capable of forging things no other being could make. The other group was the Hecatoncheires, giants with 100 arms and 50 heads, whose strength was so immense it was nearly impossible to picture. Cronus had locked them away because they represented a kind of power he couldn't control, and what he couldn't control, he preferred didn't exist. Zeus set them free. It wasn't just a strategic move, though it was that too. It was a statement of intent. The new order would not rule by crushing what it didn't understand. The Cyclopes, grateful, gave each of the three ruling brothers a weapon forged by their own hands. To Zeus, they gave the thunderbolt, blazing and devastating, capable of shaking the sky. To Poseidon, the trident, with which he could stir the sea and split the earth. To Hades, a special helmet that made him invisible, perfect for the one who would govern the realm of those no longer living. 3 weapons, 3 domains, 3 forms of power that meant something far beyond a military advantage. They were the symbols of a world that was about to reorganize itself. With the Hecatoncheires as allies and the new weapons in hand, the battle reached a different scale. The Titans were powerful, but the young gods had something else, the urgency of those with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Zeus's thunderbolt lit up the sky in ways the cosmos had never seen. Poseidon's trident unleashed storms across the sea. The Hecatoncheires hurled boulders the size of mountains with their 100 arms. The earth shook with every blow, and Cronus began to fall back. These stories don't picture Cronus struck down in a single instant. The Greek tradition describes him more as a force that gradually gave way, that slowly lost ground, that watched everything he had built, through so much control and so much fear, come apart before something he had never been able to stop. The prophecy didn't arrive like a lightning bolt. It arrived like time itself, unhurried, inevitable. The Titans were defeated. Those who had fought alongside Cronus were sent to Tartarus, the same place where he had once imprisoned the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires. There was something in that detail the Greeks surely noticed. Fate has a long memory, and the tools of fear and control tend to end up trapped in the very spaces they were built to contain. And then, for the first time, Olympus was free. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia stood before something none of them had ever known: the possibility of a beginning, of building a new order. The world was divided among the 3 brothers who would rule its great domains. Zeus would take the sky and stand as the highest among the gods. Poseidon, the sea. Hades, the underground realm of the dead. The others would find their place on Olympus, in the earth, in the cycles of nature, in the fire of the hearth. Olympus had just been born as the center of divine power, not as a place made of stone, but as an idea, the highest point in the cosmos where the gods who had won this war would live, argue, love, envy one another, and govern over a world that mortals were just beginning to inhabit. But there's something worth sitting with before moving on. Cronus feared destiny so deeply that he did everything in his power to escape it. He swallowed his children. He imprisoned what he couldn't control. He ruled through fear. And yet every one of those choices was quietly building the very path that led to his downfall. The child he never managed to swallow grew up free, shaped differently, capable of doing what his father never could, letting go of control, trusting others, releasing what had been locked away. Fear didn't stop the prophecy. It fulfilled it.